This is Kate Baconsale. You're listening to Baconsale.
Hey guys, whose turn was it to do the intro?
It's your turn.
It's my turn to do the intro?
It's not my turn. It's not Joel's turn. It's your turn.
That must be right.
There's an order to this.
Oh,
Yeah.
You know what? It is my turn. Live from the Baconcave, it's Monday morning!
Yeah.
I want to play saxophone right now.
Yeah.
I think I peeked out there a
No
little bit.
sax. No sax?
No sax.
That sounds like you have an abnormal growth.
Welcome to Baconsale. I'm Joel.
I'm Kent.
And Jacob, the guy not with nose sacks.
Yeah. Yep.
I would like to thank you for listening to our last show, our fall movie preview, our end of year movie preview, end of 2019 movie.
It was a really fun show.
It was a lot of fun. A lot of fun movies were brought up, and a lot of weird movies were brought up.
And a lot of strange boom boom jokes and trailers.
Yeah, I'm surprised
Boom, boom
Arctic
jokes.
Dogs got as much attention as it did.
I finally saw the John Cena
I'm gonna have to see it
firefighter
now.
one,
Did you?
and it made me sad.
Yeah, a little bit.
Like
Yeah.
you cried a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, not like he's above that, but still, seeing
he's
that
not.
on a big screen made me
Yeah.
really
You don't
sad.
think he's going to rise to The Rock level? Because The Rock was doing movies like that for a while.
He was. In
did, that's
fact,
true.
he's going to be in Fast and Furious 9. John Cena is.
Really?
It just
He's
it fits.
really moving up
Remember
in
when
the
Vin
world.
Diesel did The Pacifier?
Yeah.
Or the French version, The Pacifier. But I actually had a comment here from Christopher Sternolio saying, why didn't any of you mention A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood?
Oh, okay.
Because that was one that's coming out.
Yeah.
And it's starring Tom Hanks as Mr. Rogers.
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
And we didn't talk about it at all, even though we gave so much love to
Won't you be my neighbor?
Won't You Be My Neighbor and
Mm-hmm.
documentaries, and then also just Mr. Rogers in general on our educational show.
Absolutely.
So, Ken, why didn't you bring up A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood?
Tom Hanks. I'm really sorry to say it's Tom Hanks.
Why do you hate Tom Hanks?
Because he's playing everybody. He's just playing everyone.
Who is he playing besides Mr. Rogers?
Walt Disney,
Oh, that was like 3 years ago.
Colin Hanks. I think he's going to play his son at some point.
Colin Hanks is his son.
No, Tom Hanks is going to play.
Colin Hanks is gonna
Colin
play his own
Hanks
son.
in the Colin Hanks story.
I like that.
Yeah.
But it's an isolated part of Mr. Rogers' life, and I appreciate that because how else do you do a Mr. Rogers movie except for just make him really happy all the time? There's
Yeah.
really no drama there. But it's Tom Hanks, and he wasn't convincing as Walt Disney, and I don't really see him, other than looks, being convincing here, even though he's a good actor.
That's kind of what I said. I replied to Christopher and I said, I love the documentary, Won't You Be My Neighbor? I think the world of Fred Rogers. I just can't see Tom Hanks as Mr. Rogers. When I saw him in the trailer, I was like, oh, it's Tom Hanks. He's not even trying to do an impersonation.
Yeah.
But I understand people could be excited for it because Mr. Rogers is a nice guy. Tom Hanks is a nice guy.
Yeah.
Sure, this could work. But it wasn't one that it's a middle of the road one. I don't want it to fail. In fact, I want it to do good, but I'm not anticipating it.
Yeah.
He was
So
also
sorry, Christopher.
He was also Sully.
Oh, yeah, he was Sully.
Yeah.
Oh,
In that
Sully
movie, it was
Sullivan.
And the
really
guy
average.
in
I think
Apollo
with the
13.
monster. I think with the monster.
me too.
Lovett. Jim Lovett.
Yeah, yeah.
Jim
Level.
Lovell. Thank you.
Yeah.
That wasn't quite right. But I
In
was
what?
getting there. Apollo 13.
Oh, yeah. And then Catch Me If You Can. That was based on a true story as well.
Yeah, but was he based on a real character or an amalgamation of a bunch of other characters?
Charlie Wilson.
Save it for our Tom Hanks show, which we really should do.
Should we?
sometime. Yes.
Yeah, I know.
Yes, we
Probably,
should.
yeah.
But that's not what we're talking about today. And we're not talking about anything else yet because we want to talk about
Captain Phillips.
Scary Date Night with Baconsale.
Yes.
Kent, lightning in post.
Oh, yeah.
No, in post. Dang it.
Post what you said.
No. So that's not even close. I didn't say a howl. No.
He just
Why was there a cat
There's
at
just
the end of that?
ambiance.
There's
It's
always
ambiance.
a haunted
Now
cat.
do a witch sound.
Just want. This isn't October, but if
Squeaky
you
door.
Save it for our sound effects.
Joel, you just
competition.
keep talking. We're going to throw in sound effects here.
So during the month of September, if you become a patron during the month of September, well,
Oh, yeah.
okay,
Ghost?
guys, I need to talk about the rules here. They need to hear this. So on October 1st, we will be doing a drawing on all the people who are patrons. If you are at patreon.com/Baconsale, you can sign up. And our patrons, they fueled this show. They help us create the content that we create and help keep us going and keep the lights on here in the Baconcave.
Absolutely.
We appreciate them and we love them. And if you are a patron on October 1st, we will do a drawing of all patrons, randomly choose one of them to come on Scary Date Night with Baconsale.
But they can
Sound
bring-
effects.
Oh. I'm Todd. I'm a fox. I'm Copper. I'm a hound dog.
I have no idea what's happening right now.
That's where my mind
I think
went.
you're getting excited for October. Is what this
I'm
is.
getting super excited.
I am
but
too.
We're hoping that you can bring a date because you don't really want to go on a date with the
No,
three
you
of
can
us.
bring it. It's a plus. They can bring a plus one.
Yeah, you have a plus one.
We're still debating if we get to bring plus ones, but we are going to take you to a dinner and enjoy a meal before going to a haunted house, a spook alley, a commercial location where actors dress up.
Or as we discussed, something else if you want.
If that's not your thing.
Weak sauce.
But it's our thing.
Well, it could be an escape room, which we're cool with.
Yeah, we're cool. We love
Or
it.
a corn maze, which Kent lives in. So, I mean, it'll be... Yeah, it'll be easy.
Yeah. But so that's what's going on. And if you sign up this month to be a patron of Baconsale
Or upgrade
from one tier to another, you get to torture Jacob. Torture Jake. Torture Jake. Torture Jake.
You don't want to do
In
that.
fact,
listener.
we already have one new patron.
Yes, we do.
Who, because they signed up, they get to torture Jake. And
by torture Jake, he means you could also just find something really nice for me to eat.
we didn't even say what it
Or
was
watch.
yet, Jacob.
I know, but
I'm literally
they
going to
know.
have them torture you. No, you get to, if you sign up in the month of September, then you get, or upgrade, then you get to suggest something weird for Jacob to eat or something weird for him to watch.
Yeah, like a movie, basically. Probably not a TV series, but something that we can release.
Now, they're saying
Yeah.
weird, and you can go weird. I guess that would be fine, but
That'd be fun.
It can be anything that you want.
But it's not torture unless you give him something weird.
It should be a really
So
spicy
Dave, we have
sauce.
Dave
I want it to be
Stewart.
something you genuinely like, listener.
Dave Stewart, he pledged
Share it
to become
with me.
a patron
Yeah,
of
Dave
Baconsale.
Stewart, thank you very much.
Welcome, Dave. We appreciate David. I guess I should call you by your name here, David. David from 24. But David Stewart, you get to pick something for Jacob to watch or Jacob to eat, and then he has to review it on a video on Patreon.
I'll probably even mention it on the show, honestly.
Yeah, you can do that.
Not a
as well.
full review, but I'll mention it.
So if you want to join David and recommend and torture Jacob here, then join Patreon right now. It's patreon.com/Baconsale.
And then
come support us. We need the
we have different
support
levels
anyway.
with different perks. You can actually get a lot of fun stuff by signing up.
Yeah, we're saving it for a box fan, so help us reach
Kinda
that
need
goal.
it.
Yeah.
It's been a hot summer, and we want Kent to start wearing shirts again.
I'm sorry.
So,
I'm on a diet.
I'm fine
It's
with
going
it.
to get better
you
soon.
look great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Just distract.
That much hair really covers up the skin. Doesn't bother me at all.
It does. Although I wish you went below
Exactly,
his. I wish you
exactly.
went below his Adam's apple though. That's the weird part about it. It's just like long. Okay,
It's the essential oils. I'm sorry.
but that's not what we're talking about today. What are we talking about today, Jacob?
You know, this show's been a long time coming. This is the finally the SNL show.
Yeah, we talked about this one in past
At
seasons.
least 2 seasons ago.
We know that.
It's been on the list that we've always kind of been kicking down the road.
Yeah.
I think because we knew a show like this would take a lot of research, and so we put minimal research into this one. And no, it actually should be really fun. We're going to do a category show about SNL, and we came up with so many
It is
categories.
minimal. I only have 8 pages of notes.
Unreal what you do.
This one, honestly, I was looking at our categories and I thought we could do a sequel out of this if this turns out well.
Could.
You know?
We came up with 16 categories that we'll be picking winners for. Kent and I both will. And we have on deck like 22, 23 other ones that we didn't use.
Yeah.
that we could use for another show.
And they're good too.
If we don't pick one of your favorite sketches or characters or actors,
Bring it
don't
up.
worry.
Yeah, it could happen.
It could happen later on. So don't get mad at us just because we didn't include your favorite. But there's so much to talk about. This is 44 seasons of history.
It's weird that it was canceled 3 seasons ago, though, like 3 years ago.
It's been
Does
canceled.
anyone watch SNL anymore?
I don't think
Sometimes on YouTube.
It's actually funny. The highest rated season of SNL is actually the 1979 to 1980, the 5th season after
Really?
the first major cast change, after Belushi and Dan Aykroyd left. The lowest rated seasons, they're actually tied 2006, 2007. That's after Tina Fey and Rachel Dratch left.
Oh, Rachel Dratch, of course.
Yeah.
I'm like, who?
Well, she was one of those faces you totally
Yeah.
loved. And then 2014, 2015, when Leslie Jones and Pete Davidson joined the cast, that was one of the lowest rated seasons. And then the 2016 and 2017 season, one of the most recent ones, it's
Oh,
one of the
no.
lowest. So they're not.
Well, can you tell us a little bit
Doing
about the
great.
history, like how it began?
Yes, I can.
Please do.
So if you don't know what Saturday Night Live is, for all of our international listener out there, I like to think there's people.
Hey,
outside.
actually,
There are some, we know.
Trinidad and Tobago.
There was a lot of surprise. There was a surprising amount of listens from Trinidad and
Each
Tobago.
month, we get about 250 listens from Trinidad and Tobago.
Hey, South Korea listens quite a bit as well.
Yeah?
Yeah, they do.
Much
What's up, South Korea?
respect.
What's up,
Yeah.
Trinidad and Tobago? But if you don't know what it is, it's a
Save
late
it for
it's a
Trinidad
late
and
night
Tobago.
television variety
Also
show.
Israel. We've gotten a lot further.
that makes sense.
Created by Lorne Michaels
Your people.
and developed by Dick Ebersol. And these are the two guys who kind of are the brains of Saturday Night Live. Lorne Michaels still with the show today, even
Yeah.
though he left it for a bit. And if you don't, if
he's
you ever wanna know what he
94
looks
now.
like, Dr. Evil. When Mike Myers did Dr. Evil, he was essentially doing a Lorne Michaels impersonation.
I think I've heard something about that.
How he talks.
Did they
the
get
whole
along?
time. They did, and Lorne Michaels actually thought it was pretty funny. But the show aired originally on October 11th, 1975, with George Carlin as the host. This was one of those shows that they needed to fill time because Johnny Carson, they used to just show Johnny Carson reruns on Saturday night. And then Johnny Carson said, save those. I want to air those when I go on vacation. So they had to fill the programming with something. So they came up with this sketch comedy show.
And the joke was it's the not ready for primetime players.
Yeah.
Right? Like they had to be on Saturday night, late at night.
Yeah.
Right.
These are all second city comedians, generally Canadian as well.
Some of them, yeah.
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 And yeah, they probably weren't big enough to be in movies or any sort of TV show, but this was like and also the Groundlings. I think the Groundlings and Second City is where a lot of these people came from.
Which makes sense because it's the Star Maker show. And
Groundlings, a lot of them came from there. And then, so this one, like, it came off with a hit. Like, right away, it gained this cult following where everyone was watching it in 1975. And then in 1980, Lorne Michaels was absolutely exhausted from doing the show the way they do it. And I'll get to the kind of how they do a show because it's insane. So he decided he wanted to go on vacation for a bit, and they were unable to come to terms of his vacation, so he left the show. And along with most of the cast and most of the writers. So they called the early 80s the Dark Ages of Saturday Night Live.
And there may be, and by the way, if you're listening with kids right now, there may be, it's Saturday Night Live, so there's some sketchy comedy there.
Sketchy comedy.
Ways. But a lot of the cast in 1980, they started to get really popular, and so when you become very popular really quick,
you do
drug
drugs.
use is involved.
Yes.
And so a lot of them were just on drugs.
Don't do drugs.
Yeah, don't really do drugs because
80s and 90s trouble too with that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But then it was just funny because like that, they had such a tumultuous time in the early 80s where they almost canceled the show, but then they brought Lorne Michaels back and he was like, okay, I'm going to do this the way I want to do it.
Nice.
And they pulled in, they did unknown comedians to start. And then when they got the new director in there, the new creator, she brought a bunch of kind of known comedians in, and people hated it. Lorne Michaels came in. He brought in known comedians as well. People hated it. So he trashed the show a second time in the 80s, in the early 80s, and like cleared out the entire cast and then brought in a bunch of unknowns again. And that's where it's been running strong since that time.
When did Eddie Murphy join the cast?
He during the Dark Ages, actually.
Oh, he did?
He was the one shining star that like made it through the cuts when they killed
And
the
was he
entire
known
cast.
at the time, or is that
No.
what catapulted him?
That was it.
Yeah, that was it.
catapulted
That's
him.
awesome.
And he was like a producer. He took charge of the show. He got all sorts of credibility, as I recall.
Well, what's amazing to me is you get people like Phil Hartman and Dana Carvey, and even like Chevy Chase and Dan Aykroyd, and they were complete unknowns when they came on the show. No one knew who they were, and they're household names now.
Yeah.
There have been 871 episodes since its debut, as of this show.
That's more than Supernatural.
And they've
Slightly.
and they've had 151 cast members.
Whoa.
How many cast members do you think you can name, Ken? Out of 151?
I could name 25,
Yeah,
probably.
I think you'd do a little more than that. Probably.
Yeah, maybe a little more. But I'd be like, that one guy, in that one sketch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The longest tenure, by the way, the one who's been on there most. Do you want to take a guess?
I actually know.
Jacob, you want to take a guess?
I think I do know, but I can't think of his name.
Describe him.
White dude, boring looking.
You're right. It's Kenan Thompson.
Oh, that's right. I had seen that.
It was almost Daryl Hammond.
Yeah, you were thinking of Daryl Hammond.
Yeah.
White guy. You were thinking Daryl Hammond for sure.
Yeah, but
Typical white
Kenan
guy.
Thompson has been there since 2003, and he's still going.
wow.
It's kind of crazy. The shortest tenure, by the way, Emily Prager, who was in 0 episodes.
Oh.
She was in some dress rehearsals.
Does that even count?
She was in some dress rehearsals, and then there was the writer's strike, and she was actually featured in the credits as a featured player, and she'd been in kind of in a background, uncredited in like 5 previous episodes, but she never actually performed as a featured player.
Is this someone we know?
No. But the second one, the one who only had 1 episode, was Laurie Metcalf. You guys know Laurie Metcalf?
Oh, yeah, from Roseanne.
I know
From
that
Roseanne
name. Yeah.
and from Lady Bird
Yeah.
and
Scream 2.
You'd recognize her face if you saw
Okay,
her.
yeah.
She was Roseanne Barr's sister in Roseanne.
Aunt
You saw
Becky.
that. Yeah.
Okay.
So, but she was on for 1 Weekend Update piece, and then she was part of the cast that got tossed out. So she only had 1 episode. So it's kind of funny to see the kind of the different range here.
Yeah.
They've got 65 Primetime Emmy Awards, and they have had a lot of success in that time. Like, during that time, they've had their ups, they've had their downs, and it's been kind of interesting to see how it goes. Kent, do you want to know how much the cast was paid per episode in the first season?
I'm going to say $300.
You're lowballing.
Okay.
But that's Hollywood.
Yeah.
$750 per episode.
Each cast member?
Yes.
Wow.
The second season, they got $2,000 per
And the amount of
episode.
work they put in per week for
Oh,
this show
yes.
is nuts. Like
Oh,
that
yeah.
is
And we'll
that
get
is
into
so
that.
low.
But so the first season they got 750. Second season they got 2,000 per episode. By season 4 they were getting 4,000 per episode. And then
movie deals at that point.
oh yeah, they start doing that. Although they lock them into these crazy contracts. Like
Yeah.
there was a time when they said, okay, you have to be here for at least 3 years, and then we get to offer you a sitcom, and you can only refuse 2 of the sitcoms. The third one you have to take.
What?
And you have to be in the sitcom for 3 years.
Jeez.
So if
Holy.
you see a lot of these.
That's like working at Jimmy John's.
Yeah, it's kind of great with the yeah, exactly.
Nothing's
All back to
that crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing's as crazy as that.
By the way, in 2001, Will Ferrell became the highest paid cast member, being paid approximately $17,500 per episode, and that was
From SNL or
Yes.
based on endorsement deals?
that was
and
that was
movies?
SNL,
Okay.
and that
he
was
was
in
pretty big at his
2001.
peak. Yeah.
Jacob, you did a wonderful impression of Don Pardo to start.
Thank you.
He was the announcer from the beginning, basically, until he passed away. And then Daryl Hammond, actually, who was the second longest running on SNL, took over for him. So he's still getting work. You guys will be happy to know that Dave Grohl is the most frequent musical guest, performing on 11
It makes
shows.
sense. He's
since
like, guys,
1992.
I'm just hanging out. Can I just
come
be
over
on
here
the show?
and get punched in the face by Andy Samberg?
Yeah, exactly.
Let me guys just run this through you, though. This is the production schedule for
Yeah, I
Saturday Night
want to
Live.
hear this.
So I was in a sketch comedy troupe at BYU.
I've heard bits of this, and it sounded insane. So
Yeah.
I'm excited for your research.
So the way we would do it at Divine Comedy down at BYU was we would have 3 shows a semester, 2 different shows, and then a best of.
Okay.
We would meet
Spaced how far apart?
a month.
Okay.
So we'd have about a month to prepare a show, and we'd meet Tuesdays and Thursdays. So we'd be there twice a week, writing sketches, pitching sketches, rehearsing sketches, and then doing a show.
Okay.
And it was difficult, especially with the class load and work and everything. It was hard to do.
Girls,
What?
significant others,
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I thought you were just. I thought you just saw something out of the corner of your eye.
girls.
He just had Beastie Boys in his head.
All I really want. But this is actually how they do it at Saturday Night Live, where they put on during a season. So they're not doing this year round, but during a season, this is how they work. So normally they start on Monday with a freeform pitch meeting. So they just come in and pitch a bunch of scripts,
Okay.
and ideas essentially. Tuesday is once they pick kind of the ones they want to work on. Tuesday is the only day dedicated to purely writing the scripts. So they have one day to write the idea that they came up with on Monday. On Wednesday, they're the sketches that are now written are read aloud in a roundtable meeting in the writers' room, and they'll just kind of read it all together, see how it works. Lorne Michaels then, and there's some of the producers will get together, discuss the layout of the show, discuss what work it did, and they'll put it up on a board in their office. And then the cast comes in and gets to see what shows made the cut and what shows didn't. On Thursday, they rework and rewrite, then refine the remaining sketches. On Friday, they start rehearsals. So keep in mind, this is Saturday Night Live. They're starting rehearsals on
day
Friday.
before. Wow.
And then on Saturday, they do a couple more rehearsals before a live audience, a dress rehearsal at 8 p.m., just before the live show.
So I shouldn't be so harsh, because in recent seasons that I've watched, it seems like the cast and the guest host have just literally been reading off cards.
They literally look off the screen. And
like,
read
I'm
the
like, are you
cards.
even trying anymore? But since it was the day before that they actually practiced, I guess I kind of get it.
Well, it's even crazier because after they do the live rehearsal, they'll be like, how long was that? That was over 90 minutes. Cut this one, change this, do that, and they make all these
so
changes
there's one
just
of the
before
cast
show.
members or writers that's like, I've had this idea, I've pitched it every week, and maybe it would
Yeah.
get in like the 37th episode. Okay.
Some people have been writing these sketches and they've almost got to air, and then it gets cut for time. And it's just like,
Okay.
so yeah. It's kind of crazy to me, by the way, how they are able to churn these out week after week after week. Because keep in mind, that's
is.
Saturday night they do it.
Mm-hmm.
They get Sunday for a break, the day of rest. Monday they're back in the pitch room,
Yeah.
pitching the next sketches. It's insane. So there you go. There's a little bit background of how Saturday Night Live works.
It's just tough because in the age of YouTube, it's going to go away.
You think so?
Yeah, I think it will go away. It is a tradition. It may become a YouTube channel, but like they're not ready for prime time, and now they can't even hold a candle to YouTube entertainers out there.
Well,
I don't know. I think they're going to be strong as ever, maybe more, because there's more digestible content they can put on YouTube, because all these skits are short.
But here's
But
the
they got
other
to
thing,
put it out
Jacob.
there, like primarily.
But they do.
They kind of went on this live. We're doing this all live, and it wasn't until they did some pre-taped sketches before, but it wasn't until Andy Samberg came in and started doing digital shorts that they started going, hey, this is a fun thing to do, and these are easily digestible, easily shareable,
Yeah.
and they can go viral. In fact, we'll talk about that later on. We get to best digital short.
Yep.
But it's just interesting to me too, because I looked at the ratings and I watched it in this steady decline, honestly, and I think to myself, how much longer before the studio says just go exclusively online? You don't need to be on the air.
They just need funny people. That's all they need.
And it comes and goes.
Yeah, exactly.
And people say that all the time. People be like, oh, Saturday Night Live isn't as funny as it used to be. And I'm like, which part of used to be? Because there are ups and downs.
The whole
history.
time. The whole
It's
time.
whenever people started watching, that's what was special to them. And then there's a new cast, and they say, I can't watch
I don't
this
think
anymore.
anyone watching during the Robert Downey Jr. season really thought of
Did
that
you
as
watch
a
some
good
of those
time.
clips with him and Anthony Michael Hall?
Yes.
Awful.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
Yes, Robert
Wait,
Downey
was he
Jr.
on the cast?
Robert Downey
Yeah.
Jr. was a cast member.
I did not know that.
He was terrible.
It's crazy. Some of these cast members, I look at them and I'm like, why were you on this show? It's kind of crazy to think about it.
Yeah.
Like Billy Crystal's one of those that he got in there as a known comedian and then he left almost immediately after that. And I'm like, why was Billy Crystal on Saturday Night Live? He had so much other career stuff, but yeah, he had some good sketches.
Let's get started. We got
Let's
a lot
get
of
to the
categories.
categories.
We do.
Sure.
Yes, please.
All right. First category: favorite recurring character.
I've talked a lot. You go for it.
So explain what that is first.
So recurring character, there's sketches that are very, very popular. They can tell ones that hit with the audience. And so they'll say, they may be in the writing room and say, okay, it's been a while since we've done Target Lady. We need a Target Lady sketch.
Yeah.
Or another sister sketch. So this character shows up probably showed up, I should say, every 3 months on Weekend Update.
Oh, crap.
And is it the same one?
We're going to pick the same one.
Yep.
It's Stefan.
Stefan.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
Stefan.
he is shown to be a flamboyant New York scenester and is often wearing a tattoo printed shirt with his hair artistically colored and styled.
It's Ed Hardy gaudy. It's
It really
just this
is.
horrible T-shirt.
And
Yeah.
and it's funny that you chose the same one because there's so many great 80s, 90s, 2000s characters, like the cheerleaders, for example,
Yes.
right? As
The
tacky and
Spartans.
annoying as it is, they still keep coming back and it's great.
But
Like
what
the Russian girl played by oh gosh, what's her
Kate
name?
McKinnon?
Kate McKinnon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
She's fantastic.
That was a great recurring character. Yeah.
Well, in my picks, this is kind of how I organized it. I wanted to span as big as I could.
Okay.
And so I tried to pick old ones and new ones. And Stefan was one of those characters. It almost immediately came to mind.
So
He's played by Bill Hader.
Yeah, Bill Hader. He started in 2008, ended in 2013, but he's done a few specials since then. And then he's also hosted the show and been Stefan. And he's mentioned, he always says, this club has everything.
Do you have an example?
Yeah, I have so many. Do you have a couple examples?
You do one, I'll do one.
So, Black George Washington.
I like how you want to cover your face like he does.
yeah.
So he's talking about these clubs. Like he says, hey, some tourists are coming to New York. Where should they go?
Yeah.
And he's like, oh,
He'll
this
be like,
place is
go to
great.
Unst.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he'll be like, it has Black George Washington, Blingo, which is Black Ringo, Gizblo, the coked up gremlin, Jupids, which are Jewish cupids, fat kids on slip and slides and black Irishmen, the fat Hawaiian guy nobody invited, and hobocops, which are homeless robocops.
I love that one. Well,
Yeah.
and I love just the way he does it because the same formula every time. Where it's like New York's hottest club is wow.
Or like the kitty rar. Yeah.
Oh yeah, but then he'll say this place has everything: lights, psychos, Furbies, screaming babies in Mozart wigs, sunburned drifters with soap-sud beards, and he goes off on this laundry list of things, and then inevitably, what's
Seth
his name?
Meyers.
Seth Meyers will be like, "That doesn't sound like a very family-friendly place. Can we get something a little more, accessible?" He'll be like, "Oh yes," and then he'll say something even more ridiculous.
And they'll be like, human DVRs, human Roombas. And so the joke is, and we've talked about this on a previous show, Bill Hader would kind of have a plan, and then they'd have cue cards for him, but the joke was he would know there's cue cards he hasn't read. So he'd read them for the first time on Weekend Update live.
Yes, so his buddy John Mulaney, who he's
Comedian.
he's a
Yeah.
comedian,
Netflix
great stand-up.
specials.
He actually hosted fairly recently, but it's him and Bill Hader working together, and they would
Cracking each other up.
John Mulaney would essentially do his best to make Bill Hader laugh. On
And so
screen.
when he was laughing, covering his face, that was real.
there's one where he said this club opened up in the 2 hours between when Farrah Fawcett and Michael Jackson died, and then he honestly looks at the camera like, really? Did you just make me say that? And so it's just so funny. I actually belly laugh every time I see
me too.
Stefan skits because I know. Well, okay, and I think Bill Hader maybe plays up the laughter a little bit.
Sure.
Just a little
Yeah.
bit.
Well, he has to
But at
now.
the same time, some of those things are so random. It makes me laugh every time.
Yeah.
So we agreed on the first one.
Absolutely.
There's
Funny.
44 years of recurring characters, and we both picked Stefan.
I know, we're sorry, audience.
All right. Second category is the underrated cast member of all time. Who's your choice?
I went a little more recent on this one as well.
All right, let's hear it.
I chose Chris Kattan.
That's not
Wow.
very, that's 20 years ago.
No, well, but I mean,
Isn't that crazy? That's 20 years ago.
But I mean,
Yeah, it
I was
is.
actually well. I think it's because I had a couple ideas from the early seasons, like the 70s and 80s.
Oh, okay.
And then I decided to go with Chris Kattan because
wasn't he wildly popular back then, though?
Yeah, he was. I mean, Chris Kattan did the head shake thing.
In Mango?
with Will
Mango.
Ferrell though, because Will Ferrell is
He was kind of like the little puppy to Will Ferrell.
Let's think,
Yeah.
Chris Kattan was always paired
Which made
up
sense
with
'cause he was
other
so
people like
short.
Jimmy Fallon or Will Ferrell, things like that, where they were kind of the stars of this.
Why was Jimmy Fallon ever a star in that show? He
was-
could never hold it together.
No, he never
That's why
did.
it was funny.
But yeah, he
That's why
kind
you
of had like
break.
this adorable quality to him because it's like, oh, look at that cute kid. He can't do this job.
That's what we love. We love people that can't do
Let's
their
give him the
job
Tonight
correctly.
Show.
But you're right. Chris Kattan was so dedicated to the craft.
Well, that's just it. So, like, when he would get these roles, he would throw himself into the roles. He was insane, essentially. And, like, you get these characters like Mango, which I
Yeah.
thought was absolutely hilarious, where he was this
Stupid,
flamboyant and
but so funny.
Garth Brooks was in love
So
with him.
dumb, yeah.
And then he had Mr. Peepers, which I was like, I thought he was going to kill himself sometimes because he's, like, hanging off people upside down, going to fall on his head. And one of my favorite random ones, honestly, was Antonio Banderas. When he had the, how do you say? Ah, yes, show. And for some reason, I just thought that his impressions were really funny. He did everything from Al Pacino to Alanis Morissette. Were they
Yeah.
perfect? No. But he committed to the role. And he's not one that had a very successful career post SNL. He had some terrible movies that he made.
Yeah.
His career didn't really go anywhere. He was on The Middle for a while.
Okay.
As kind of a recurring character there.
It seemed like he didn't really try, though, honestly.
Well, he actually got in
just follow
drugs.
Will Ferrell, right? If it doesn't work, you just keep
He
making
kind
it.
of trashed his life in drugs.
Oh, well, that
He's
would make
admitted
sense.
that.
That's too bad.
Yes, but at the same time,
He already kind of had a meth face, and so drugs probably didn't help.
Oh, why would
It's
you
more
say
like
that?
Well-
road rash meth face.
Yeah.
No, you guys are terrible people.
Yeah.
All right, Ken, who do you say for underrated cast
Kenan
member?
Thompson.
Oh, just because he's been on the show a really long time.
Well, really long time, but
What's up with that, Ken?
Yeah, this is the guy from All That, from Good Burger. And when he joined the show, I was like, really? Keenan? Where's Kel? What's going on here?
Yeah.
Keenan without Kel? Ha!
But he's been on for so actually he was on for 13 seasons and then was finally nominated for an Emmy.
Ha!
And then actually he's been nominated 3 times, won once. He is a guy that's always been in the background, not even one of the featured players,
Right.
but he's probably the most reliable guy on the
Super
cast
reliable.
right now.
Yeah.
I really enjoy, like, when he steps up and takes a main role, he does a great job. Like when he's Steve Harvey, for example.
Yeah,
in
Steve
Celebrity
Harvey,
Jeopardy,
Whoopi
or
Goldberg,
somebody-
which he hasn't been for a few years.
Yep.
So actually, we talked about Bill Hader, but he actually said, I would point to Kenan Thompson as the performer that I would watch and hope to attain that kind of confidence and ease and fun when I was performing. Because Bill Hader actually has anxiety. He struggles
Yes, he does.
performing in front of people, which is crazy because he does so well. But everyone on that cast looks up to Kenan Thompson like he's the glue, which there has been in almost every cast, like the glue.
Yes.
He's seen as the new Phil Hartman because Phil Hartman was the glue back in that 90 to 95 era.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can't get enough of Kenan Thompson. It's weird, but he's won me over. And he says SNL is his forever plan. So if they get canceled, he'll be brokenhearted.
Yeah. But at the same time, man, if you got a job that pays you and you enjoy it, keep
Yeah.
doing it.
Absolutely.
But I hope he's still enjoying it because
He
after
is
that long.
Yeah.
All right, next category is the best fake commercial.
Also, we hope you're playing along at home.
They make a lot of these. In fact, this is one of my favorite things that SNL does.
There's a Wikipedia page that lists every single SNL commercial. It's crazy how many there are.
I struggled the most with this category actually because there are so many great ones.
There really
I don't even
are.
want to name my honorable mentions because Joel may name one of them. But this one aired in February of 1991.
Whoa.
It's happy. It's fun.
Oh, okay, good.
It's Happy Fun Ball. Yes, it's Happy Fun Ball, the toy sensation that's sweeping the nation. Only $14.95 at participating stores. Get one today. And then it continues to go on. And Jake, you may have not have seen this, and I'm not
Yeah,
going to do
I
the
don't
joke
remember this
justice.
one, yeah.
Phil Hartman jumps in. He says, "Warning: pregnant women, the elderly, and children under 10 should avoid prolonged exposure to
Yeah.
Happy Fun Ball. Caution: Happy Fun Ball may suddenly accelerate to dangerous speeds. A Happy Fun Ball contains a liquid core, which, if exposed due to rupture, should not be touched, inhaled, or looked at. Do not use Happy Fun Ball on concrete." And it goes on for about 3
Yeah,
minutes.
I do kind of remember that,
It says,
actually.
"Do not taunt Happy Fun Ball."
It's one of those random commercials where, obviously the joke is, and one of the worst things you can do to humor, by the way, is explain it. And
Yeah,
I
which is
apologize
what
for
we're
that,
doing
listener.
here.
But they're playing on the joke of those disclaimers that like, wait, that sounds a lot worse than they made it out to be in the commercial.
Yeah.
And I love that they apply, it mostly happens with medical commercials, but I love that they apply that.
And
to
that's
Happy Fun
exactly
Ball.
how they play it here. Because like you have Dana Carvey and the gang like, "Hey, it's so much fun," and then you hear once again, "If Happy Fun Ball begins to smoke, get away immediately. Seek shelter and cover head." And it just continues to do that. And I saw this, I think when I was 12, or I don't know, I was 10, 1991, and I watched. I loved it. I actually had a VHS with this on it, and it was just commercials from that era. And I watched it over and over again. But Happy Fun Ball is my favorite fake commercial.
Yeah.
That's a good choice.
I had a hard time with this one too because there's so many that I remember and that I enjoyed. And in the end, I kind of went, it's not really a cheat because it is a commercial, but it's also a sketch about commercials. It's Schiller Vision's hidden camera commercials. This is the one where the Swedish host is saying, hey, you know those commercials where they say, hey, did you find out that you're actually drinking decaf and not regular? And then the people are like, oh, that's amazing. And he's like, this actually took so many takes to get. Let me show you what really happened. And it's Chris Farley, and someone walks up to him and says, sir, do you realize that you are not drinking regular coffee, but Colombian decaffeinated coffee crystals? And he goes, what? And then he repeats it. You've been drinking decaffeinated coffee crystals? And he's like, and he starts getting so mad. He's like, you lied to me. And all of a sudden he starts like knocking over the table and like shoving people around. And like the restaurant is trying to stop him. And he's like punching people in the face.
Yeah.
And it's he eventually like gets slammed on the head multiple times with a frying pan as his crying wife is like, why? But the idea is so simple because those commercials, those hidden camera commercials were really popular at the time and still are popular today, where it's like, oh, hey, we faked you out with this real DiGiorno pizza instead of delivery or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, what if someone really wasn't happy with the result or with what you did to them, that you lied to them?
So we went with that era and not like mom jeans, for example.
Mom jeans
That's
is
a great
hilarious.
You're not a woman. You're a mom.
Yeah. Well, no,
Oops, I crap my pants.
I love Toilet. We talked about that too.
The love toilet, for
Did you
sure.
guys see the one with The Rock just earlier this year?
What was the commercial for?
I can't remember. It was basically meth. He was taking some sort of product and he
Second
goes up for a
reference in the show.
prescription.
I don't remember that.
Oh gosh, put it on your list.
Yeah.
We're watching it when this is over.
Schiller Vision's hidden camera commercials. Like I said, simple idea, but Chris Farley's over the top delivery made it hilarious and unforgettable.
And what about Schmitz? We didn't even talk about Schmitz.
Save it for the sequel.
Yeah.
Anyway, we can't give honorable mentions, Kent.
All right, next category is the best sketch to movie transition.
Same answer.
We better agree on this one.
Yeah.
It's Pat.
It's Pat.
What?
No, it's
Coneheads.
Wayne's World.
Yeah, it's Wayne's World.
So 1992, Wayne's World. Now,
Made for $20 million. It made $183 million.
Yeah, this did quite well at the box office, and this transcends the Saturday Night Live sketch. This stands on its own.
It does.
You don't have to have had to have seen the sketch to get the movie, and that's why I like it. Mm-hmm. Also, I don't like. Honestly, I think I saw the movie before I saw the sketches. I'm not sure, but I remember watching.
You might have seen one or two. They didn't appear a ton, actually.
They didn't
on the sketches.
Yeah,
and it's always a top 5 list, and it's always Claudia Schiffer. Swing. You know, that was the joke.
And this is Mike Myers and Dana Carvey in their element. This was Mike Myers' film debut. His first movie ever was Wayne's World. And apparently he was a bit of a baby on this.
We talked about this on the Does It Hold Up?
Yeah.
When we accidentally said that So I Married an Axe Murderer held up, which it doesn't.
It does.
So the studio wanted to use Guns N' Roses instead of Bohemian Rhapsody.
Right.
And so Mike Myers just threw a fit and said, I'm going to quit. And so they used Bohemian Rhapsody. And he and the director, Penelope Spheris, got in fights all the time. In fact, he blocked her from directing the sequel.
Wow.
I'm happy with her. Well, actually, this movie was filmed shortly after, or no, it was released shortly after Freddie Mercury's death. Freddie Mercury from Queen. I think it's one of the reasons Michael Myers fought for Bohemian Rhapsody. And its use in this film kind of gave Queen a resurgence and made Bohemian Rhapsody rise to number 2 on the charts.
Well, that's cool.
A decade after its release.
Also, fun fact, Garth's dream woman, Donna Dixon, she's been Dan Aykroyd's wife since 1983.
Really?
Yeah.
Way to go, Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah, no joke.
This is also Wayne's World, a Saturday Night Live sketch turned movie, was the number 8 highest grossing film of 1992, the year Aladdin came out. It's in the top 10 highest grossing films, and it's a Saturday Night Live sketch turned film.
Yeah. It's just a great movie.
It is, and it still holds up. I mean, obviously it's dated.
Sure.
Yeah, we could do that episode.
But it brought so many of those catchphrases into common language. Like, I don't know how many people used "not" because of Wayne's World.
Yeah.
But probably that's what a lot of people used it for.
I still say, game on.
Game on!
Game on!
Car! There's actually a lot of quotes from there.
I don't even own a gun.
Let alone many guns to necessitate an entire rack.
There we go. We're explaining
Save it
jokes.
for our
There we
Wayne's
go.
World quoting show when we do a live read of Wayne's World.
All right, so from the other spectrum, what's the worst sketch that turned into a
3,
movie?
2, 1. It's Pat.
I didn't choose it.
What?
No.
How could you not choose It's Pat?
I don't think I saw
There could
it.
be worse ones.
All right, so I chose It's Pat. It was made for about $10 million. They try not to say, but $10 million. Made $60,000.
I didn't know they made that into
60.
a movie.
Well, because they pulled it.
1 week.
Didn't they pull it after 1 week?
1 week. So the
So give the premise of It's Pat.
synopsis is the comedic misadventures of a person of indeterminate gender.
Well, so Julia Sweeney is
Julia
funny.
Sweeney. She is.
She's fun, and I like the character. It's Pat.
The sketch
on
really
SNL.
worked, but it was one of those things where I think she was in a contract. She hated this movie so much. Everyone hated this movie. Dana Carvey was supposed to be in it because he was generally in the sketches with her, and he declined. He said, "There's no way I can be in a movie like that." Somehow he was able to.
But he's fine being a turtle man.
But basically, There is, oh man, let's not go into Master of Disguise.
No.
There is this guy who's like really conniving, and he wants to know if Pat is a man or woman, and he will stop at nothing to find out. And it's such an awkward movie and really terrible. So Julia Sweeney hated it. She appeared one more time as Pat on the show, and she said she just kind of faked it. She's like, I didn't even have the heart for it anymore because she then hated the character.
Well, yeah. It kind of trashed her career.
Yeah.
All right, so it's Pat. Joel?
But fun fact, sorry, real quick.
Okay.
Directed by Adam Bernstein. This is his first
not
movie.
fun at all.
And it's his only movie. But then he went on to direct like great TV shows like Better Call Saul, Ed, Scrubs, Breaking Bad, Fargo. So amazing TV. Like multiple episodes of each. But
Just not a movie guy.
He learned from this one to not do this kind of movie.
I chose something a little more recent. I chose MacGruber as the worst sketch to movie
so
transition.
bad.
That was one of my least
I
favorite
didn't watch
movies.
that.
I don't remember when I watched it, but I remember that was on my list of least favorite movies. We did it here on Baconsale, I'm pretty sure. So that one came out in May 21st, 2010, but the character first appeared on the show in January of 2007. The movie had a budget of $10 million, and it made 9.3.
Okay, so just short.
Yes, but the whole thing is the sketch is... It's the same premise every time. MacGruber, who's kind of a parody of MacGyver, is in a room and there's a bomb. And he's trying to get the bomb to not go off, but he keeps getting distracted by something else. And eventually the bomb goes off. That's the sketch. It's about 1 to 2 minutes long every time.
Right.
And they decided to make a movie about that. I remember when they said they're going to make a movie, I'm like,
Who was it that was
it's
MacGruber?
Will Forte.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And he's funny. Will Forte's hilarious. But this movie, in fact, I'll just read my review here. MacGruber isn't funny. It's not humorous at all. I think the filmmakers got comedy confused with vulgarity. Shock humor is a lazy style of comedy in the first place, and it's even less effective when it's constantly thrown at you. The SNL skit this movie is based on isn't that good in the first place, but this movie's even worse. I wish I wouldn't have wasted my time on it.
Okay.
They were trying so hard to be funny, and they just kind of threw everything at the screen. And in fact, there was one point where they were worried about an NC-17 rating because of the humor they were throwing out there.
Jeez.
And
So
they
you're
decided
saying
to soften
for
it
the
a bit for
crassness,
R.
that makes it worse than It's Pat.
I'm
which is
saying
unwatchable.
I'm saying that, like I said, they confuse comedy with vulgarity, where they're like, we're just going to shock the people into laughter instead of actually trying to make good comedy. The worst part is that Will Forte in March of 2019 said, we're trying to see if someone will let us make it as a TV series. We have a really fun idea. We actually went out and pitched it a couple weeks ago.
No, you were in Last Man on Earth.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
No.
We're in past tense. That's
Yeah.
the point. Yeah.
Which was funny for a while.
For a while. Season 1's pretty funny. All right, next category is the favorite weekend update anchor.
So I went with someone that it wasn't the first weekend anchor that I saw, but it was the longest running one I saw because I had to go with my teenage years.
Yeah.
And it was from 1994 to 1997. It's Norm Macdonald.
Norm Macdonald.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Kevin Nealon was the first guy I saw, and I almost chose him.
Yeah,
I want to
he's
do
a
a
good
Norm
choice,
Macdonald
too.
impersonation, Kent.
Oh, I can't. I'm not even going
Do
to
it.
try.
Come on.
It just has to be nasally, right? Okay, how about this?
He's a funny dude, though.
Down and out, O.J. Simpson. No, that
was good. That was
Yeah,
perfect.
yeah. You're
It's
doing
like
all right.
Norm Macdonald's in the room.
Okay. Exactly. Down and out, O.J. Simpson has decided to go back to doing what he does best. Killing people. That's the joke that got Norm Macdonald fired.
Yeah.
So an
What?
NBC executive, they'd done O.J. Simpson jokes for years at that point, but he kept beating him up. And he kept talking about how he's a murderer and how he got away with it. And so finally, NBC executive Don Ohlmeyer, who was friends with O.J. Simpson, talked to Lorne Michaels and said, hey, get rid of him now. So mid-season, they cut him from Weekend Update and the show altogether. Replaced him with Colin Quinn, who is the worst Weekend Update guy. Yeah, he was absolutely
I'll
terrible.
take a look at a list, but
there's so many jokes I loved here because like the note to self was kind of something that I kind of adopted from that point on. And just like his delivery, he was so snarky.
Yeah.
That it worked for me. I think Kevin Nealon was more of a straight man, and I believed him as a news guy.
Right.
But then
it's like, well, you see a Norm Macdonald in the air, you're like, who let this guy have his own show?
Yeah. But like the kind of jokes you see in Weekend Update in the 90s, it's like this. And in music news, number 1 on the college charts this summer was Better Than Ezra. And at number 2, Ezra. Like that's a 90s joke for you. They're very dated, but Norm Macdonald, that's where he belonged because he wasn't really a sketch guy.
Did you ever watch Norm Macdonald when they had him come back and host after they fired him?
No.
His cold open was, I'll never forget this because I couldn't believe that it was such a ballsy thing to do. He came back in and he goes, hey, yeah, You guys might know this. I used to be on the show. Turns out I had a little disagreement with management. Turns out I thought I was funny and they didn't. And but now I'm back to host the show. And now I'm back to host the show. He's like, now it could be one of two things. One, I've gotten funnier. Or two, the show's gotten worse. Now, I don't think a person really gets funnier, so I can only assume that the show has gotten worse. And I was like, wow, man.
That's a shtick, and it works really well.
I like it.
Yeah. All right, Joel, what's yours?
I went with the OG of Weekend Update. I did Chevy Chase, 1975.
Was he the original one?
He was the creator of Weekend Update. That was his idea that him and another writer, Herb Sargent, came up with. So Chevy Chase was only on Saturday Night Live for one season. And apparently it was a very, very rough season.
I'm sure. He seems like a really easy guy to work with.
I'm Chevy Chase, you're not.
Yeah, well, that's right. That catchphrase of I'm Chevy Chase and you're not. And then he had this repeated joke where it was like, Generalissimo Francisco Franco is dead. And it's one of those things, the joke has been lost now. People don't say it anymore. But people were referencing that joke because the whole thing was like this guy in Spain was dying and the news kept updating whether he was dead or not. And so that was the running gag. And then after he died, he kept updating saying he's still dead. And so people would use that, and like the news mentioned that fairly recently. I think there was some article about someone who died, and they said is still dead. But things like that. So he had these little shticks where he'd always be talking to someone on the phone, and then realize he was on the air, and then he would say he was the one who came up with "Good night" and "Have a pleasant tomorrow." That was his kind of bit at the end. But he's the one who kind of set the tone for this Weekend Update, and everyone else has kind of been trying to follow that sense, I feel. Chevy Chase's dry sense of humor lends itself very well to this news format, I feel. And I really enjoy that. And then he also did the shtick of The Hard of Hearing, where he would be reading the news, and then Garrett Morris would appear in the corner and just yell the news louder. So they'd be like, and now we're going to have the news for The Hard of Hearing.
That's funny. Yeah.
Our top story tonight. Our top story tonight! And then that would be the shtick. But yeah, so I went with Chevy Chase.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a good choice. Although Norm Macdonald forever.
I was also a big
Norm Macdonald forever.
That's on your bumper sticker, isn't it?
It is. It's actually a tattoo on my
Norm Macdonald.
Don't worry about
and
it.
Robin.
All right, next category is the classic SNL MVP.
Now, classic SNL we're defining as like 75 to 85. The first 10 years.
Yeah. Okay. Who do you have?
I have Gilda Radner. And I've talked about her before on the show when I talked about the documentary that recently came out about her. She was a cast member from 1975 to 1980, and she's one of the first, I think she was the first person that Lorne Michaels hired when he was starting to form the cast of Saturday Night Live. And then her last episode was on May 24th, 1980, and she left kind of when Lorne Michaels and everyone kind of went out in that era and went and do her own thing. But she was one of those comedians that you just loved everything they did. Everything she did, she would just commit to, and she was funny. Her characters include Baba Wawa, which was a parody of Barbara Walters, Rosanna Dana, who was this kind of rough around the edges correspondent, Emily Latella, which is the hard of hearing old lady they'd bring on for the news, and she talked about violins on television, how there needed to be, how people are complaining about there's too much violins on television, but I don't think there's enough violins on television. And someone would be like, it's violence. She's like, oh, never mind. And then Lisa Loopner, she was one of the nerds that I thought was hilarious. Gilda Radner is one of those presences that I felt SNL suffered the most when they lost.
It's true.
Because she was absolutely hilarious and absolutely mesmerizing.
Full dedication to the character.
She's so funny. Like, if you've never seen any of Gilda Radner's sketches, you need to look them up.
A lot of those guys, they just played themselves or heightened versions of themselves, but Gilda Radner was all in.
She was all about different characters and trying new things, and sadly passed away. But like I said, there's a documentary that recently came out about her, and I don't know. I just think she's an amazing woman who had an amazing comedic talent.
Honestly.
And she's one of the few who resisted doing cocaine.
Really?
As I mentioned in the show a while back.
Is there like a Wikipedia list of who has and who has not?
Actually, yes, right here.
So I'm glad you chose her because I went with Dan Aykroyd. And so I feel the same. I think Gilda Radner is the MVP, but Dan Aykroyd, I feel, is also kind of underrated at this point.
I actually had him as my underrated initially because I felt like he was the backbone of SNL.
He was.
Well, let everyone else shine.
Yeah. So, Bill Murray was there, Gilda Radner, like all these classics. But Dan Aykroyd he just seems like the most improv ready.
Yeah.
Always ready to make someone laugh. And his characters, there's obviously Elwood Blues from the Blues Brothers, Beldar Conehead, Irwin Mainway, who the name you won't really know, but he is the pitch guy. He played a lot of pitch guys.
He did Bassomatic.
The Bassomatic.
And
that was a great one.
And stuff like that.
Yeah. And also, obviously, he did the Weekend Update with Jane Curtin, and they were a great
Listener,
pairing.
if you have not seen the Bassomatic, go watch that. Google
Bassomatic
that right now. Dan Aykroyd, Bassomatic.
Yeah. And in the impressions he did, like, obviously, they do presidents on this show and other politicians. So he did Richard Nixon and Jimmy Carter. He also played Julia Child, which is pretty hilarious.
Just cut the dickens out of my finger.
Yeah, and Rod Serling as well. But he left in 1979. And yeah, drugs overtook the cast. It was called the Great SNL Exodus at that time.
Yeah.
But yeah, he is great. And obviously, look at what he did. And the thing that surprised me most is the way he spells his name. Because it's Dan Aykroyd. It's Aykroyd. It's not Dan Aykroyd. It's Dan Aykroyd.
Well, who are you to judge pronunciations?
That's a tier 3 name right there.
Kent Dunu.
Aykroyd is, for sure.
Aykroyd is definitely a tier 3 name.
Yeah, that's a tier 3 name.
But he
all
is,
the way.
for me, the classic SNL MVP.
I agree with that one.
I kind of thought Eddie Murphy was going to come out of one of you two. Because
Almost.
Yeah, Eddie Murphy was one of those that I would have given him MVP because he saved the show, kind of.
Yeah.
But he really was
Buckwheat and Mr. Robinson's Neighborhood.
so funny.
Yeah.
We're getting into other stuff. Yeah.
Okay. All right, next category is the sketch that caught you completely off guard.
Joel, I think you chose the same one as I did.
Oh crap!
There's so many.
Farewell, Mr. Bunting.
Dang it, we did. I thought for sure that if I picked one from recent
Finger boot, please.
Finger boot. I thought if we picked one from, I thought if I picked a recent one that you wouldn't pick it.
Let me explain this scene for you. It's Dead Poet Society.
Yes.
So the principal, played by Bobby Moynihan, comes in.
Yeah.
He comes in to tell the prep students that Mr. Bunting will no longer be teaching. You can tell they're downhearted, so they're just speechless. And he's like, well, where were you guys in the book? And they're like, we don't know. We didn't really follow a lesson plan. And he's like, well, let's just start from the beginning. Like, there's nothing played for laughs at this point.
I actually timed it.
It's deadly
I looked
serious.
at the clock. It is so sincere.
How many minutes?
The first joke it's a 3-minute sketch. The first joke is a minute 12 in, and it's just a little joke. Like, we made hats out of our books, and people are like, ha ha. And then it goes back to serious.
So then halfway through the sketch, we have Mr. Bunting, played by Fred Armisen, walking in. He walks in awkwardly, looks at the class, and he realizes he has to get the rest of his things. And he looks at the principal, and he's, hurry up. You know, and the students look at him, and they're really sad.
It's so sincere. Like, it feels like they're actually acting.
Yeah. So he grabs his box, and he's walking out.
I like how we're spoiling this one.
Yeah, we just...
Spoiler for Farewell Mr. Bunting from 2016.
So he gets to the exit.
Go watch it.
He's
Pause
standing
the
there
show
with
and
his
just go
door.
watch it.
Yeah, do some elapsed time here. And then all of a sudden, just like Dead Poet Society, except they don't say, oh, Captain, my Captain.
What do
you
they
see
say?
one.
It's like my poet.
It says, I sing my song for all to hear.
That's what it is.
And stand on their desk, and one by one. And you look at Fred Armisen in this scene, and he's like,
he's getting touched.
because it's the last thing he'll ever see a student say.
Yeah.
And everyone, one by one, I sing my song for all to hear. And then the last one to do so,
Pete Davidson,
and he's in the middle of the class. And you see this. You should have seen it coming. He stands on his desk, and there's a ceiling fan. I sing my song for all, and his head gets lopped off in a serious sketch. And it
happens at 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
It lands into Fred Armisen's arms, and blood is squirting everywhere, and people are screaming.
It's just chaos. It's bloody chaos.
They play hot potato with the head. It finally goes outside. The lawnmower gets it, and so blood squirts all over the window.
It is horrific. Listener, this is a great one to show people and not give them any warning, which I have done a couple of times.
Make sure they have a strong stomach, though.
Yeah.
Children are the best for this, honestly. They'll never see that coming.
And then he's like, you guys got my email, right? I'm just going to go.
He's like, I got to go. You got my email, right? Oh, man. Dang it. I hate that we picked the right one because there's so many sketches that catch you off guard.
Yeah, but that one is the best.
And it was so recent, too.
Yeah.
But yeah, Farewell Mr. Bunting.
Yeah, that was great.
Go give it a look. Even though we spoiled it, it's quite funny.
Yep.
And
All right.
violent. Don't watch it, kids.
Yeah, be careful. Children. All right, next category is the sketch that didn't age well. What was funny in its time, but it just has not aged.
Well, I didn't do this for me. I did this kind of for the world. Like, this is a sketch that would not fly today. Sketches, I should say. This is a character. It's Jim Belushi as Samurai Futaba. So Jim Belushi, back in the night,
John Belushi,
sorry.
I know. Jim Belushi was actually part of the cast as well, but yes. John Belushi was one of the greats.
There was a time when they had a lot of siblings, like Brian Doyle Murray and like Jim Belushi. But anyway, John Belushi, as Samurai Futaba. So John Belushi, this is the first season kind of stuff. He plays a samurai who Chevy Chase comes in to get a hotel room, and he's dressed like a samurai. Like, he has like the traditional clothing on. He has his hair up in the bun, and then he has a sword. And all he does is speak gibberish Japanese and then gesture with his sword. That's the joke.
Yeah.
And then Richard Pryor comes in, and he's dressed up as samurai too. But then it became this reoccurring character where he was like working in a deli or at a laundromat or as a mechanic. And like every time, it's the same shtick every time. Well, he'll speak in gibberish, Japanese, and doing kind of impersonation of a samurai. And the people will act like they understand what he's saying. And I watched a couple of these sketches, and they were actually pretty funny.
You found them funny?
I did.
Like, I didn't find them offensive. I was just like, oh, it's the 70s.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought, too.
Well, my thought was, I was like, wow, I can't believe, like, I watched the first one, and I went, I can't believe this got, like, additional sketches.
Yeah.
And apparently it's because, like, one of the guests, Buck Henry, he insisted on having another sketch to be in on his show, and they're like, what are we going to do? And we're like, oh, we'll just have John Belushi do the samurai guy again. And so they did that, and it turned out so well that every time Buck Henry was on, they'd do a samurai guy sketch.
Okay.
So I'm not saying that I didn't like it. I'm just saying people today would probably be offended at it and call it cultural appropriation. And
is it wrong? I don't really like the humor of John Belushi.
No, I mean, it didn't was the style.
He was so big, and that's why it was fun to watch.
You like Chris Farley?
No, but I mean, big and loud. He was just
Chris Farley.
Chris Farley.
Yeah, it's Chris Farley. But I think Chris Farley, there was like a finesse to it somehow. But both had full dedication. Maybe it's because I watched Chris Farley growing up, and that was my brand of humor.
But I'm not,
or because Chris Farley was funnier.
I think so.
Or maybe just funny.
Yeah. No, I just think that Chris Farley was the John Belushi of the 90s.
Yeah.
Is kind of what I think. And it's that time for that era, you have that type of character, the larger-than-life angry guy.
Yeah.
And I think that, I like John Belushi. I'm not saying that everything he does is gold, but I'm saying he definitely had some parts that I liked. One of my favorite things, this isn't a category or anything, one of my favorite things is when they let him do a cold open, and the whole cold open was him teasing the censors and the producers, like, you let me do a cold open, so I may say something kind of crazy, and that's what you're worried about, right? And then you go back to normal, and he'd like build up again, and the whole time you could know they're just sweating and just like hovering over the cut button.
Yeah, because he's the rebel of the group.
Yeah,
exactly. So the one that didn't age well for me, I didn't go for, like, I see SNL as a time capsule. There are things that are offensive, maybe seen as racist or whatnot. And that was kind of the time they were in. It's hard to watch with 2019 eyes anything that came out before, because they wouldn't do that kind of sketch anymore. But the thing that doesn't age well are any of the cold opens at all. Any political sketch is a week later is dead in the water.
Okay, wait. Cold opens or political sketches?
It's mostly political sketches are mostly the cold opens.
Really?
Yeah. It's generally like, let's look at the Democratic debate with all 20 people, and then it's a joke, but it's only funny for like 2 weeks when these people are still relevant. I remember being in college, and they'd show reruns, I think, on VH1 and Comedy Central, and I'd be like, oh yeah, it's just from 3 or 4 years ago. And you'd watch it, and you'd be like, oh, politics back then? Like, I don't care at all.
Because it's the joke of the week. Like, whatever happened that week is the thing they're talking about.
You're telling me that Gerald Ford jokes don't last?
Gerald Ford was eaten by wolves today.
All right, that was still funny.
Well, it's about Gerald Ford. It's not Gerald Ford.
But yeah,
it was a great skit.
I mean, and there are characters which we still know, like Kate McKinnon playing Hillary Clinton, or Sarah Palin playing
that's about
Sarah
right.
Palin playing Sarah Palin. She was that good. Tina Fey and Sarah Palin. But guess what? In 5 years, this won't be relevant anymore.
Yeah, it'll be like one of those things that
even now
it's like,
it's the kitsch. Like, you're like, Tina Fey's back and Sarah Palin going to say the same thing again. Yeah, and so the politics of the show don't work, and I know they have to do it to keep it current. But I feel like Weekend Update does it better. For me,
rewatchability is not as good for the political.
Not at all. It's like, don't age well.
It's a good insight. Okay, so the next category is going to be the most catchy song.
So many options here, Kent.
The Hanukkah song.
Oh, hey.
First performed on Weekend Update on December 3rd, 1994.
Put on your yarmulke. It's time to celebrate Hanukkah.
Man, that crap was everywhere.
O.J. Simpson. Not a Jew.
Yeah.
But guess who is? Hall of Famer Rod Carew. He converted. This song, as soon as you saw it, it felt magical. I don't know why, but he was right. There are no Jewish Christmas songs or Jewish holiday songs that are really out
Did you say
there.
There's no Jewish Christmas songs?
As a joke, exactly. Because he's saying like Deck the Halls or Jingle Bell Rock, right?
Right.
Because they're just general holiday songs. But he wanted a song for everyone celebrating Hanukkah and to give him a little bit of pride. And so this one became part of his stand-up act. It actually has 4 versions.
Yeah, he keeps updating it to get more newer celebrities on there.
Yeah, which, is a little played out. But still, the song, you'll hear it every Christmas at this point. And you probably won't hate it.
It's funny.
It is funny. So now your references like Shia LaBeouf, Carrie Fisher, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Jake Gyllenhaal,
When's
Paul
the last
Abdul.
update?
It was probably 5 or 6 years ago.
Oh, geez, I didn't know
because he's
he was
still doing
updating
stand-up acts.
Well, but that's the thing is, like, if he was still doing the stand-up act and singing about O.J. Simpson, people would be like, whoa, update your material, dude.
Yeah. Totally, because it's very 90s at that point, but then he's updated since then.
I'm glad he's updating something.
Oh, come on. Your Netflix queue, that's what he's updating. But yeah, Adam Sandler, he killed it on a lot of Weekend Update segments, but this one was one of his best moments.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
Good choice.
And as much as I would like to pick Space Pants as my pick,
which I just barely saw recently because of you.
Yeah, because it's one of those weird random sketches that Peter Dinklage did recently with Gwen Stefani on a very recent show. But I couldn't remember the tune except for just yelling Space Pants. So I decided to go with Adam Sandler as well and Sloppy Joe, Sloppy Joe, Lunch Lady Land. So I had a hard time finding information about this sketch, to be honest. As far as I can tell, it aired in January of 1994.
I thought that one was just on his album,
but
actually.
Sandler had it on his album in 1993. So it was on his album, and then he decided, I'm going to do this. And I think
he wanted to make it popular.
I remember seeing
album promotion, basically.
I think I remember seeing like a behind the scenes on the 25th anniversary or something like that, or one of those anniversary shows where they were talking about how they had the show ready, and they come in and be like, "Oh, Sandler has a new song, let him perform it," and they cut sketches just so he could do this.
Oh, I'd be
songs.
so mad.
I would be too.
Yeah.
But we sing this song, the Lunch Lady Land song. Every time we have Sloppy Joes, we turn it on and we'll all start singing it. Me and my kids.
And Chris Farley is the lunch lady.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's amazing.
But it's the tune of that Sloppy Joe, Sloppy Joe. It's like the na-na-na-nas at the end of Hey Jude, where they repeat it endlessly at the end.
Navy beans.
And then all of a sudden it's just stuck in your head for eternity.
Yeah.
So there's mine.
Way to go, Adam Sandler.
Yeah, he took that one away, didn't he?
He did.
All right, next category then is going to be the best digital short.
And I'm going to give it to Adam Sandler Jr.
There you go.
Otherwise known as Andy Samberg.
Well, he was the one that came up with the concept. I mean,
Yes.
they've always done commercials and whatnot, but they started these in 2005. And he and his band, The Lonely Island, were generally the ones that wrote and directed these.
Yeah, so he had his group, Lonely Island. Are we going to pick the same one?
No.
Okay. He had his band, The Lonely Island, and they were doing this sketch comedy, and they were trying for 3 months. Andy Samberg had been on this. It was his first season of Saturday Night Live.
Kind of a forgotten face.
Yeah, well, he was kind of the background character, this little guy, but then him and his buddies were trying to get a sketch on air for 3 months, and nothing was taking it. And then finally they recorded Lazy Sunday. And
With Chris Parnell.
Remember that one?
No.
The Chronic Watkles of Narnia. Pass the Chronic Watkles of Narnia.
Okay, yeah.
So it's these two guys who want to go see the Chronicles of Narnia, which is a ridiculous thing to rap about. And they're rapping about their day, just like how they like to sneak food into the movie theater. Mr. Pip and Red Vines equals crazy delicious. And as they're buying,
That's so Andy Samberg.
it is. And as they're buying stuff for the theater, they're like, you can call us Aaron Burr from the way we're dropping Hamiltons. I just think it's clever writing.
Yeah, it is really great.
But this one actually had a pretty big impact because, first of all, it launched Andy Samberg as kind of a star. Like, he actually got applause, I think, the next time he came out on stage at Saturday Night Live. And the other cast was like, whoa, this guy's got something. And also, this is the video that many attribute to launching YouTube. So YouTube was this fledgling video site in 2005. And this video, Lazy Sunday, was digital short, was on there like all over the place.
Wow.
And so people were sharing it and going to it. Because before that, you had like E-Bombs World and Newgrounds and all these other places you could find videos.
This is pre-Google owning YouTube, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
And so this is what kind of put YouTube on the map was Lazy Sunday by Andy Samberg and Chris Parnell.
I'm surprised you didn't choose Jack Sparrow.
Oh,
Although it's a really foul song.
It is a foul
with
song.
a great hook.
Most Lonely Island songs are pretty foul.
Yeah.
Threw It on the Ground. Is that one of... Is that a song, really?
Yeah, threw it on the ground.
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm not a part of this system.
But like a boss and on a boat, like I could sing those, but only part of those.
Yeah.
But Lazy
there's
Sunday?
There's one we're not going to mention on the show, but it's probably the most popular one.
There's a couple we're not going to mention on the show.
So I'm going with a very recent one. This one actually was in 2017.
What?
And it's all about papyrus.
Oh, he chose papyrus?
So
save it for our font show, Ken. Remember we were going to do that?
Granted, yeah, we should. And I will put the font show in papyrus. So this one has Ryan Gosling.
Oh, yeah.
And he's obsessed.
That was funny.
He's obsessed
Figure
with
out the
Avatar.
mystery.
And so he's talking about like papyrus. He's on his computer complaining about it. And he says, so he's talking about James Cameron and the people who came up with the font for the movie.
Yeah.
In this movie that is at the time, the highest money earner ever. And he's like, it's like he just highlighted Avatar and it shows it on a computer. Click the drop-down menu, and he randomly selected papyrus, like a thoughtless child, just wandering by a garden, yanking leaves along the way. And it's driving him crazy and crazier. He has a therapist, and they're like, what about the sequels? There's going to be sequels? He goes by the guy who created the font for the movie, and he's just staring at him. He drives by every day and gets in an accident, has a nervous breakdown, and he's so into this.
Papyrus!
He's yelling papyrus, and he's right. And 1 year later, James Cameron unveiled the new logo for Avatar 2, 3, and 4, and it's changed.
Is it?
It's changed. He took away the papyrus because it made such a good point about papyrus that he couldn't use it anymore. And the creator of the papyrus font actually said, I'd like to take the time to apologize to my brother and sister graphic designers out there. I tried to make a well-designed font, and clearly it was used for the wrong purposes. So,
it's funny.
Papyrus.
See, that's why SNL is going to be relevant, I think, is because they can call people out on crap like that.
Well, just things like that. They're so random, and it's a serious sketch.
So random. Yeah, exactly.
But that's what makes it funny.
But it's memorable.
Yeah. That's where they find their niche. Okay, next category. We're on number 12, by the way, of 16. Most overquoted sketch.
Are we going to pick the same one?
Of course we are. I'm 35 years old. I'm divorced, and I live in a van down by the river.
Kent, what are you picking?
38 years old. Truthfully. Matt Foley, motivational speaker.
Yes.
This is a top 5 sketch on
This is
SNL.
up there. This is one where you get an amazing performance by Chris Farley. You get characters breaking. They start laughing, which is also funny. And then you get those catchphrases.
And so what it is, everyone's seen this, and please go see it, but it's the behavior. He's adjusting his belt. It's the way he holds his hands. It's like he's going to have a heart attack.
So much
his
energy.
blood pressure is just going to just go sky high. And
So you glad he's much more calmer than John Belushi.
Yeah. But no, it just, I guess it's because I was the age where physical comedy really got me, where he could fall into a table and it was hilarious.
Yeah.
Pick up David Spade, who was like his little brother. He's the Chris Kattan, basically.
I love that part so much.
So we had Phil Hartman, Julia Sweeney, David Spade, and Christine Applegate. They were prepped for this scene, and they were basically told, hey, you're going to have a conversation about pot, about 2 parents getting mad at 2 kids for finding this. And then just let Chris Farley do his thing because he didn't show up to rehearsals on purpose. David Spade said, he purposely said, I won't be showing up. It's going to be a surprise. And so when he came out for half of the sketch, they were literally laughing at everything he was doing because it was so new. He was so into the role.
So were they improvising their lines then?
Well, the only lines
because he's like, I want to be a writer, and she's like, I want to live in a van down by the river.
Yeah, so when she said that, I want to live in a van down by the river, he's like, you're going to have a lot of time living in a van down by the river when you're living in a van down by the river. And then they're just busting up. And obviously, like, there's other lines like, you're not going to amount to jack squat. These are things I'd say to my friends. Well, la-dee frickin' da.
I remember an assembly at school where one of the guys was doing an impersonation of this. I thought it was hilarious.
And so it was this the only Matt Foley sketch, or is this just the most well-known?
I don't know, because I didn't pick this one.
I don't know.
But oh my gosh, this cements him as a legend in SNL history.
And it is one of those sketches that is unforgettable and so simple in concept. But like you said, you just let Chris Farley go, and it's hilarious.
Yeah.
And actually, that one of the creators of that sketch was Bob Odenkirk from Better Call Saul.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm looking up right now, Ken, to see if Matt Foley was in anything else except for that one sketch. But I think it might have just been that one.
That's crazy, because usually SNL takes advantage.
Nope, never mind. He was in a couple of them.
Okay.
Actually.
I do kind of remember something about him.
Probably about
yelling in living
10
rooms
or so.
It was probably Phil Hartman as the dad, and then there's new kids every time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I didn't pick that, Kent. In fact, I'm not feeling very well. I got a fever. And the only prescription is more cowbell. So I'm talking about More Cowbell, which aired on April 8th, 2000.
It does get a lot of love, doesn't it?
It's one of those. Well, and the reason I picked this one, because I was worried you were going to pick Van Down by the River, and so I kind of went a little different here. But 2, because I heard this quote multiple times before I ever saw the sketch.
Yeah.
If you recall, I was not in America in April 8th of 2000. And so, like, I came back and people are saying, more cowbell. And I was like, what the heck are you talking about? And this sketch...
Don't be selfish, Gene.
This sketch actually was submitted 7 times before it actually made it to air.
Do we know?
Seth Meyers, I believe. He was the head writer. And I think Will Ferrell actually wrote this one, but or part of it. But this was one where it was so weird in concept, I don't think it could work. And if you remember, if he submitted 7 times, that means 7 different hosts. And it wasn't until Christopher Walken got involved that
Legendary
all of a sudden
host.
it became something different. And this was one of those sketches, once again, has the same type of thing, where it's this simple premise, amazing catchphrases, and then the characters start breaking because it's just hilarious.
It's so good.
In fact, Will Ferrell actually ended up showing up to the actual filming in a tighter shirt than he had at all the rehearsals, just so it'd show more of his belly when he was flinging around.
And
the
he's so
cowbell.
hairy.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, he's awfully hairy. But Christopher Walken actually said, I hear about it everywhere I go. It's been years, and all anybody brings up is cowbell. I guess you never know what's going to click.
Well done. Well done.
So-
Good job, Jake. That was a great quote.
yeah,
Thank
very
you.
Good.
Like
Very
that,
good.
yeah.
But yeah, more cowbell. Probably overquoted, but still funny.
It's great.
Okay, so next category is going to be the best breaking scene. So when the actors break.
Speaking of breaking, and I was
You mean
gonna-
Jimmy Fallon? Is this the Jimmy Fallon Award right here?
Which if you haven't seen, and that's
Can
when
I
you
pick
break,
one? Oh, it might be one of yours.
If we don't bring it up,
I
feel
do
free
want you to. Yeah, bring up.
Okay.
But there's actually a song Andy Samberg and Adam Sandler did. That's When You Break for the 40th anniversary, I think it was. And they show all these clips of all the times the actors have broken, and they have this whole segment where they just pick on Jimmy Fallon and Horatio Sands the whole time.
Yeah.
It's great. But I picked this one just because I saw it recently and I could not stop laughing. I chose Debbie Downer at Disney World.
That was my choice.
Yeah?
It's a great one.
Yep.
So Debbie Downer is this character played by Rachel Dratch, and she's one of those people, and you probably have met one of these people where you're talking about something, and you're like, oh yeah, we had a great time yesterday at Lagoon. And they're like, someone died on Puff. And it's like, what? Why would you bring that up? And that's what the character is. She just keeps on, no matter what the conversation was, will bring stuff in. And her first appearance in May 1st, 2004, with guest host Lindsay Lohan, was a group of friends at Disney World. And no matter what they bring up, she starts talking about how like the mascots are probably suffering from heat stroke, or how feline AIDS is the number 1 killer of
zooms
cats.
in. Yeah.
And then every time she
Yeah,
says
that's
something
it.
down, it zooms in on her face and goes whap 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 whap.
Yeah, the sound effects are annoying. I'm like, oh man, how is this going to play? But it just keeps going and going, and they keep breaking, and it's just...
Well, the part that gets her, though, is at one point she's talking about some government cover-up, and she says, the government is so sensitive. Then she stops and realizes she said sensitive, and she goes, I mean secretive. And so she meant to say secretive, but she's the government's so sensitive. And Jimmy Fallon starts laughing. And then she starts laughing. And right after that, it zooms in on her face, and she hasn't recovered yet. So she starts laughing.
Yeah.
And there's a part when Horatio Sands is literally wiping his tears away with a Disney waffle. And then Lindsay Lohan says her last line and bolts out because she's laughing. The whole group
She has
is
a
just
sense of
laughing.
humor? Lindsay Lohan?
Back then she did.
Maybe.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
So, yeah.
She was probably pretending.
I chose Debbie Downer from Disney World.
That's
so
a good
good.
choice. All right, Kim.
I chose a recent one, and I can't give you the transcript of what happened in this one because it's so dirty, but it's Close Encounter.
Oh.
So we have 2 agents
With
played
Kate
by
McKinnon.
Bobby Moynihan and Adie Bryant.
Yeah, I haven't
They're
seen
interviewing Cecily Strong. Ryan Gosling appeared again on my list,
Yeah.
of course, and Kate McKinnon. And this role for Kate McKinnon is like, it is the role. They tried it again when Ryan Gosling came back to
work.
host. Didn't work. But this one was magical because they're all playing it straight, and they're talking about an alien abduction, and you have Cecily Strong and Ryan Gosling being like, it was magical. They wrapped me in a warm blanket of love, and I saw lights and everything. And you have Kate McKinnon sitting there smoking. You're wearing these mom jeans, is outstretched, and she's like, what? And she's like, she talks about how they treated her, and it's a very, I can't even say it on the show because it's not
They
very
were
funny.
much more rough
She's
with
like,
her.
I don't think I was dealing with the top brass. And you see within 2 minutes, everyone is dying laughing. And she doesn't start laughing till the very end.
Like, I think Ryan Gosling breaks almost immediately.
Yeah. And he's like, I got to wipe my tears on
And
my
then
shirt.
Adie Bryant and Bobby Moynihan start getting into it. I think Cecily Strong is the only one who stayed strong, honestly.
No, she laughed.
But she's the one who's like the whole time trying to keep the sketch going. Like the whole time
Yeah.
it makes me laugh because she's trying so hard.
But everything she said, where they'd say something amazing, and she'd be like, yeah, the thing that happened with me felt super off the books. There's one point where these aliens were doing something, and she goes, I don't think this is appropriate. In fact, there was like one gray alien by the door, kind of doing this. And he kept looking like in the room. He's like, I think he was the lookout. And Jake, have you seen this one?
No, I haven't.
We'll watch it after this.
It sounds kind of horrifying.
I'm
not one
destroying
for
the joke.
kids.
Yeah, I'm destroying the joke right here.
And the joke.
Yeah.
But yeah, kids don't watch this one.
Yeah, but it
it's
gets
pretty
me.
big.
It is so funny.
Not family friendly.
Not at all.
All right, then next category is going to be the modern SNL MVP.
So this was the past 10 years, 2009, 2019.
Yes.
and it goes to Kristen Wiig.
I chose Kristen Wiig as well. Of
course.
Wow. This was one where I debated whether I can choose Kristen Wiig because she's not current member. She actually left in 2012.
Yeah, from 2005 to 2012.
But she was right in there. I was like, right at the end, she was amazing. Like every time Kristen Wiig was in a sketch, I was entertained.
There's something about her. I mean, like,
she's got a charisma to her.
Yeah, natural. And she was the best performer, I think, on the show, probably even now.
Yeah.
Like the dedication she had to these roles, whether it was classic film
more
stars.
than Pete Davidson.
Well, here's the thing.
Yeah.
In my mind, just
Druggy McSunkenize, you mean?
I really felt a parallel here between Gilda Radner in the early years and Kristen Wiig in the later years, because she was one of those who she could disappear into the role and create a character, and it was hilarious and memorable. Like you think of the Target Lady or Gilly or Judy Grimes. Just kidding. Not Judy Grimes, but guess Judy Grimes. Just kidding.
The Californians.
The Californians.
Yeah, Karina, Californians.
And then Dunice. I love Dunice. Oh. From the Lawrence Welk Show. Jacob, have you seen that one?
No, I don't think so.
So it's these four sisters.
Yes, you have.
You had to.
Don't ruin it. Don't ruin it.
We have to. We already ruined so many.
No.
Yes.
This one he's got to see for himself.
I'm going to talk about it, dang it.
No, there's no time.
But it's on the Lawrence Welk Show.
I don't know if I want you to ruin it.
But
don't ruin it. Don't ruin it.
I'm not ruining it all. I'm just saying there's four sisters, and they all have beautiful singing voices, and then Kristen Wiig is very different from the other sisters.
And Lawrence Welk is trying to keep it keep it a normal show.
She says things and does things that just are like all the sisters are like trying to be charming, and then she says something. Do. So
sounds like I do need to see this.
Watch the Lawrence Welk Show. Dunice is hilarious.
Yeah,
but she, according to New York Magazine, she appeared in more sketches in season 34 than any other cast member, appearing in 124 sketches and averaging 5.8 appearances per episode.
Jeez,
well deserved. Too.
Total classic.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah, no, I thought she's hilarious. So yeah, Kristen Wiig. Glad we agree on that one.
Yeah, of course we do.
Oh, there's so many other MVPs I'd love to give it to, especially if we had to pick current cast. We'll save it for another show.
Yep, save it.
Save it. Yep.
Potentially, if the listener likes this one.
All right, so two left. Next to last one is the greatest celebrity host. By greatest, are we saying favorite here? Favorite?
We could say favorite, or we could just say greatest, which mine is, and that's Steve Martin.
Steve Martin.
You picked it too?
Yeah. He first hosted in 1976. It was his goal to be the ultimate SNL host. He hasn't really hosted since 2009, but he's appeared on shows since then.
He does guest appearances, yeah. He's hosted 15 times.
Beaten by
Alec Baldwin.
Yeah, I was going to say Alec Baldwin. I think holds it.
He deserves the host here because I truly, I knew, but before this research, I thought he was a regular cast member.
That's a common misconception.
Okay.
That's why I think I picked him as the greatest guest host, celebrity host, because he fits in so well with the cast.
He really does. It's his humor.
He's a cast member. I mean, people think of like the King Tut sketch, which could have been done by any comedian on the show, but it was done by the guest host.
The Wild and Crazy Guys.
Yeah, the Wild and Crazy Guys.
Aykroyd.
Also, Theodoric of York, medieval barber.
Yeah.
Where he's like, he wants to give everyone bloodletting. Basically, it's that trope on doctors know everything.
Yeah.
And he's like offering leeches and bloodletting and things like that. Like, it probably has just demons in her stomach.
Yeah.
But, and then, Wild and Crazy Guys. So many different sketches. And I love, he did one recently called Don't Buy Stuff, where it's like, if you don't have, it's a new financial program called If You Don't Have the Money, Don't Buy It. And it's like him and I think it's Amy Poehler, actually.
Okay.
But they're talking to the cameraman, and they're trying to grasp this concept of not buying things you don't have money for.
His comedy now is a little bit.
Well, he's an old man.
Yeah.
It's a dated comedy.
Yeah.
But I still think he is one of the greatest celebrity hosts, not just because of time on there, just because of his reputation with Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
Good choice.
Totally.
All right, for the final category, what, gentlemen, was the best era of Saturday Night Live?
I'll go first on this one. It's the one that I started on. And I feel like most people would feel this way.
Is this nostalgia?
2010?
2010. Yeah. It's the 90s era, and specifically 1990 to 1995. So
the Phil Hartman era.
Are you going to give it to Phil Hartman?
No.
It's, well, yes.
I just feel like that's kind of
it is known
glue.
as the goofball era because it's a bunch of frat bros who are doing this and having the time of their lives. They were young superstars at this time.
Yeah.
And obviously, I hold this is special to me because if I watch this kind of comedy now, I'd be like, wow, that's really juvenile. But when I was 10, 11, 12, up until 16, this was the kind of show that my mom didn't want me watching. And so it made me want to watch it more. And I knew it was inappropriate. And guess what? I didn't get 70% of the jokes.
I'm telling
when
you,
it was
Mom.
naughty. Don't do it. because I told her I wouldn't watch it anymore. But it was one of those shows where you feel kind of rebellious for watching. Mm-hmm. But the sketches that came out here, like obviously we talked Wayne's World, but the Gap Girls, Church Lady, Hans and Franz, Da Bears, Coffee Talk, Ladies Man, Opera Man, Matt Foley's we talked about, Chop and Broccoli, Chippendales Audition, Deep Thoughts, Toonces the Driving Cat.
I love that you brought up Toonces.
I love Toonces. I had a VHS of just Toonces the Driving Cat with Abraham Lincoln, Time Traveler.
Oh, wow.
It's amazing.
This was a talented cast.
And for me, it's not only, the cast was amazing. Like, we've mentioned them so much, but Mike Myers, but we haven't mentioned like Rob Schneider or Jan Hooks, who's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Tim Meadows, we haven't really mentioned, but
Tim Meadows.
I think for our ages, and maybe for a lot of people listening, it's the hosts you knew that were popular in the 90s, like Tom Hanks and, Sylvester Stallone. Charlton Heston had a great episode. Bill Paxton, Bill Pullman, Drew Barrymore, all those people. But the musical acts were all musical acts that we love. These alternative acts that we just devoured, like, Nirvana and Pearl Jam and the rest. Mm-hmm. And so based on who I was as a teen, this was my show. And so for me, it's the best era.
Okay.
Joel?
And that's the thing is, I love that era, Kent. And
he's going to go with classic.
I am. I'm going to go with the ground setters. What am I even saying? The foundation setters, the ones who started it all. I'm going with the original-ish cast.
Yeah.
And I say original-ish because it wasn't until second season that Bill Murray came along, and he feels like an original cast member to me. The original cast was Lorraine Newman, John Belushi, Jane Curtin, Gilda Radner, Dan Aykroyd, Garrett Morris, and Chevy Chase. And I feel like those names have become synonymous with comedy. Every single one of them has a reputation in comedy. And they have sketches like...
I don't recognize all those names, by the way.
Really? Mm-hmm. That's crazy.
You know Jane Curtin, though, right?
Just like, I've heard that name, but that's
really?
it.
She's she was in Third Rock from the Sun. Did you watch that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she was in that.
Okay.
But anyway, no. So this one, the original cast, like the original sketches, you get things like at the Olympic Cafe with cheeseburger, cheeseburger, cheeseburger.
Yeah.
Like that whole thing. Land Shark, Bassomatic.
So funny.
Julia Child, Coneheads, Wild and Crazy Guys, The Samurai, Rosanna Dana,
Superhero Party.
Superhero Party, that's one one. Blues Brothers, Mr. Bill, Killer Bees, like all these sketches that are just absolutely ridiculous. And they had no idea what they were going to do when they started the show. And yet some of those sketches and some of those characters have still stood up today and built the foundation that everyone else is trying to work on. And I feel like this original cast, I have to pay my respects to it. Even though a lot of my choices tonight may have been kind of in the newer eras,
sure,
I got to pay attention to the original cast in those first 5 years.
There wouldn't be a show without the original cast.
Yeah.
It's just I go back and watch them and I'm like, oh, yeah, I could see that. That's funny in the 70s and 80s. But much like the 90s one, that was funny in the 90s.
Yeah.
Very topical at the time.
And that's the thing is, I'm sure there are people out there who are like saying the exact same thing as you were. Like, yeah, it was the guests that we loved. It was the bands that we loved because they grew up in the late 70s, early 80s. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I don't know. There's so many good things to take away from Saturday Night Live. In my research, I was finding, because it's hit and miss, and sometimes I think it's more miss than hit. But as I was doing my research, I was like, man, there's so many funny sketches out there from all different eras. Like even in the Dark Ages, as you mentioned, Jake, there was Eddie Murphy, and he was holding up the show essentially. And so, hit and miss. The ratings are down, but there's definitely some gems.
It makes you want it to continue.
It does,
because there are sketches
I feel
that
like
are
you've
great.
warmed up toward the show the more we've talked about it.
With my research and talking about it, I have warmed up.
You picked a lot more recent ones than I thought you were going to. I thought you were primarily going to be in that Phil Hartman era.
And that's where my heart is.
Hartman is.
Yes, indeed. But no, nice. I would like it to continue. I just don't know how, because the people that are on the show are not becoming the celebrities that the classic cast or the 90s
Pete
cast.
Davidson is going to be on the Suicide Squad, I hear. So.
Well, here's the thing is that originally...
no comment, Jake.
The contracts were a lot more loose back in the day. And so Lorne Michaels was really frustrated because cast members were leaving to go be famous elsewhere. Like Bill Murray was going off and Chevy Chase was going off, and John Belushi was going off, and they're all doing their own thing. And so he locked down those contracts after a while because he was tired of losing actors. And that's why I think a lot of them are stuck in there for a while and then end up don't go anywhere.
Okay.
But I don't know. Maybe it's the caliber of comedian. Maybe it's the contracts. Maybe it's just the way that...
It's also really funny, the goofball era, most of them were fired from the show. Yeah. So many people in your era, they left the show or, with drugs and everything and just decided to take off. But like 95, Lorne Michaels fired pretty much everybody. Adam Sandler got fired.
Yeah. Adam Sandler and Chris Farley.
Yeah.
The same show. They got
Isn't that
cut.
Crazy?
But I've actually, in my research, I was surprised by how many times this show has been on the chopping block and how close it's been to cancellation throughout the years. Because there's been a number of times they're like, we're not going to do it. And someone's like, give it one more chance. And then it's able to limp along for a little bit longer.
Yeah.
I don't know how much longer it can go on, though, to be honest. I do find it interesting, too, that it's such a huge success here in the U.S. that there are actually Saturday Night Lives in multiple other countries as well. Like the Middle East, North Africa, Germany, Spain, South Korea, Philippines, Japan, Canada, Finland, France, Italy, Poland.
Trinidad and Tobago.
Only two,
obviously.
Only two, however, are still running.
Oh.
That said, I looked at the thing that said dash to present, and it was France and the Arab League. Those are the only two places they still have Saturday
Go Arab League, huh?
Yeah,
Am I
seriously.
Right? Yeah.
So I can't wait for our Mad TV show, because that's going to be a great show.
No.
I actually kind of like Mad TV.
Or in Living Color show. We could do that, too.
Oh, please.
We totally could.
Yeah.
But like
It's
we
going
know
to
we
be a
could.
combination if it's going to be anything.
If you enjoyed this show, let us
Season
know.
8.
And we do have a whole other set of categories and hundreds and thousands of more sketches to pick from.
Yes.
So let us know.
Oh, and guys, before we go, we need to thank our patrons. We love you, patrons. First, from the I Am the Listener category, we would like to thank Terry Finley. Hey, Terry. A More Civilized Podcast, Stephen Ross, Adrian Gray, Greg Pascal, and Josher.
Hi, Josher.
From the Bacon Council, we would like to thank Nicole D. Hale, Chris Anderson, Ryan Farron, Matts, Mudro, and Reverse Listener.
Yeah.
But if you want to find me, you can find me at 76Joel on Twitter, or you can find me at Quickwits. They perform every Saturday night at the Midvale Performing Arts Center. For more details, go to qwcomedy.com or go to the Quickwits Facebook page.
If you want to find me on Twitter or Instagram, it's at Kenny3DD. If you want to read my movie reviews, it's ShowtimeShowdown.com.
You can find me on Twitter at Jacob A. Rogers and Baconsale on Twitter at Baconsale and on Instagram. However, do not forget, as we mentioned in the beginning of this episode, you can go on, join as a patron or upgrade as a patron, and you'll be entered to win something cool. And also, you'll have the opportunity to request any food or movie review by myself.
Torture Jake.
Jacob. And whatever it is. And you can torture me or share something really cool. I don't care. These guys just want you to torture me, and maybe that's what you want to do, and that's totally fine. But if you're just feeling nice or something, that's fine too. But whatever you do, definitely sign up on Patreon.
I don't really care, but please do something nice.
But yes, and but Patreon is totally worth it. Go in patreon.com/Baconsale. Look at all the perks you will get. We offer lots of content. There's lots of cool stuff there, and we are very, very grateful for our patrons.
Yes, we are.
So until next time, bye-bye. It's so easy that it's almost too easy and makes it hard. And then she said, I've got 2 skis.
What is wrong with your diet squirt?
Diet squirts?
It ran out.
No.
You have the diet squirts?
Why?
What are the diet squirts?
You're just recording me. I'm not saying anything. Pumpkin spice spit bucket.
That's my band.
Yeah.
But she dead.
She did.
She's not dead. She lived.
She long time dead.
And we want Kent to start wearing shirts again.
That's like working at Jimmy John's.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that cute kid. He can't do this job.
He already kind of had a meth face, and so drugs probably didn't help.
Oh.
Do not taunt Happy Fun Ball.
Just cut the dickens out of my finger.
Ghastly.
Gas we're all gonna die.
I sing my song for all to hear.
Yeah, be careful, children. Gerald Ford was eaten by wolves today.
Face pants.
I will find you.
No matter what happens.
Of Captain Jack Sparrow.
Do you want to do a sound check this time?
Yeah, I do want to do a sound check.
Because otherwise, what you gonna put at the end if you don't do a sound check, Kent?
That.